Welcome to this special report from the 10th Congressional District, Republican Party. The Michigan Republican delegates, despite opposition from the oligarchy, elected Kristina Chair, chair of the Michigan Republican Party. A break from the oligarchy is not going to be taken easily. The attacks on Kristina were immediate and brutal. We thought it would be helpful if we all understood exactly what is an oligarchy. Here is the definition of the word oligarchy. Oligarchy is a type of rule or government by the few, especially for corrupt and selfish purposes. The term oligarchy is derived from the Greek words oligos, meaning few, and arkin, meaning to rule. In short, oligarchs are people who have discovered how to use government to get filthy rich at the expense of the poor and middle class. We saw during the COVID pandemic. Billionaires doubled their wealth as the middle class lost the purchasing power of their wages. With all of the wealth that is at risk, the oligarchs are going to fight back at folks like Kristina and Donald Trump. So, the question becomes, what sort of representative do you get in an oligarchy? Here is an example.
Young people, but people who've been part of the party for many years, who didn't like the fact that you claim that Trump won this election. Do you still believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election?
I sat there and watched as election corruption occurred and media covered up and labeled us all crazy as to what we saw.
The state senators in the state of Michigan came together and after a 55-page report determined there was no systemic fraud in the state of Michigan. These are Republicans, mind you.
The question becomes, are the Michigan Republican senators deaf, dumb, and blind? In a recent poll of our members, 97% believe the 2020 election was stolen. MSNBC did a poll at the Iowa caucus. 2/3 of Republican voters in Iowa believe the 2020 election was rigged. Let's take a look.
First one there on the left. Yep. Did Biden legitimately win in 2020?
Yeah, so yes, 30% here.
Oh, wow.
No, 66%. And see if I can give you the actual breakdown
statewide entrance in Iowa?
Yeah, this is among all Republican caucus goers that we got into our entrance poll here.
2/3 of Iowa Republican caucus goers believe that the president of the United States right now is a fake.
Illegitimate.
Is not actually the president and is running some sort of scam wherein Donald Trump really is the president. 2/3 of Iowa Republican caucus goers.
The evidence that the 2020 election was stolen is overwhelming. 97% of our members responding to our poll believe the election was stolen. 3/4 of Iowa Republican caucus goers believe the election was stolen. Let's take a quick look at just some of the evidence.
Now, did there come a time when two vans pulled up in the back?
Yes, sir.
Late at night?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Approximately 4 o'clock, the garage door of the TCF Center opened. The counting room in the TCF Center is in the basement. So when the garage door opened, a van pulled up, one on day shift, one on night shift. They were supposed to be for food because they were short on food for the workers. Samuel and Nick said that there was a big data loss. They started freaking out, stepped off the stage, got on their phones. I asked them what was going on. They said it was taken care of. Nick sent Samuel over to this warehouse for about 3 hours. When he got back, I said, "Where were you? Where'd you go?" He said, "I was at the warehouse." And I said, "What were you doing there?" What I believe is it wasn't a data loss. It was actually when they found out Trump was ahead 100,000 votes, and they sent Nick over there to assist with these ballots that came in these vans full of ballots that people can attest to, that they witnessed being carried out of these vans at the TCF Center.
You have eyewitness testimony. Plus, video recordings of ballots showing up in the middle of the night. And Michigan Republican senators see no evidence of fraud. Let us watch more of Melissa Caron's testimony.
And please, when you're ready, proceed.
Melissa, why don't you tell us your name and tell us as short and as briefly as you can what happened when you were working for Dominion.
Sure. My name is Melissa Caron. I was contracted to work for Dominion Voting Systems. I'm a freelance IT worker. I was contracted to work for Dominion to assist with IT during the election. I started work at 6 a.m. on November 3rd at the TCF Center. I got off work at 5 a.m. November 4th, returned to work at 10 a.m. November 4th, stayed until approximately 2 p.m. November 4th. They were just rescanning, counting ballots 9 to 10 times, counting votes 9 to 10 times.
So they were counting the same ballot, the same vote, 9 or 10 times?
Yes, sir. They were counting them 9
How, how many times did you observe that?
I observed it thousands of times.
Thousands of times?
Thousands.
And how many, were there 20 machines, approximately?
Approximately between 22 to 24. My manager had came up to, I had called my manager over to a specific tabulating machine. I showed him a number on it, which was close to 500. It should never go over 50. Ballots come in batches of 50. I said, we have a severe problem here. Nick, autonomous, which is a part owner of Dominion. And he said, Melissa, I don't want to hear that we have a problem. He said, we are here to assist with IT. We are not here to run their election. That is exactly what he said to me. At that point, I was just really frustrated and upset. I could tell what was going on. I knew what was going on at that point.
What was going on?
He was in on it. He was in on it. They were all in on it.
In on what?
They were cheating. It was very, very apparent.
So how many ballots would you estimate in front of you that you observed were counted multiple times in the machine? Can you put a number to it, an estimated number?
At least 30,000.
At least 30,000. Okay.
Let's move on to Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So obviously these allegations are very troubling. This is my question here. If these ballots were run through multiple times, as you've alleged, I think you said possibly up to 30,000 times, definitely thousands of times being counted. When we examine the poll book and see who voted, and we count those numbers,
Yes.
would they then not line up with the total number of votes coming out of Detroit?
Just later. The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000. That poll book. Why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So my question then is if the...
Guess how many, wait, what about the turnout rate? 120%?
The turnout rate for voters, who voted in all three elections, from 2018 to 2022, is just 37%. Any election that has a turnout rate much above 37% should be suspected of voter fraud. Detroit has precincts with 120% of voters turning out. So why do Republican senators see nothing wrong? Jovan Pulitzer has his opinion.
You know, the GOP, which stands not for grand old party, but for greedy old politicians, because we have a uniparty, they don't want to do anything about this. And the reason election integrity, by the way, which is an oxymoron, because election integrity do not belong in the same sentence because there is none.
Right.
They don't want this discovered. They don't want it known because they've benefited as well as the left or the deep state or whatever. They're just playing a game for money.
In a speech before the Birmingham, Bloomfield, Republican Club, former state Congressman Leon Drolet explained why. Congressmen represent the oligarchs and not the voters.
The career decisions you make are the career decisions that are in the best interest of you and your family. So when we elect people to public office, somehow we expect them to be bizarrely different. We expect them suddenly not to make decisions in the best interest of their family. That's what we do. We expect them to become angels and do something different and vote in everybody's interest. A picture of the balcony, the House balcony. And on the House balcony above the legislature is always the same folks. They're lobbyists, and they do something that you can't do. They do two things that you probably, one thing you can do and another thing that you probably don't do. One thing is they keep track of every single vote I take and every single vote I cast. And we would cast, how many votes do we cast a year, Shelley?
About 1,500, 12 to 1,500.
Right, 12 to 1,500 votes. And they keep track of them, and you don't. In addition, they would send us checks worth thousands of dollars. And in all likelihood, you don't.
It sounds like Leon Drolet is describing a quid pro quo. Here is the definition of quid pro quo. A favor, or advantage, granted or expected, in return for something. Here is what the United States Code says. According to the Criminal Resource Manual. Intent of the parties. Section 215 of Title 18, United States Code, that the act be done, corruptly and with, the intent to influence, or reward, or with the intent to be influenced, or rewarded. Corruptly, is not new to the criminal code. Its most common use occurs, with those statutes, proscribing public employee, bribery. The so-called lobbyist. Report back to the oligarchs, with the obvious intent to influence with campaign donations, and other perks. Dependent on voting a certain way. Most of us are not lawyers, including me, but in my opinion, nefarious intentions are at work. Leon goes on to describe what happens to politicians who buck the system.
And there are people who decide that they are going to buck that system. They're going to do the right thing no matter what. They're going to get elected, and they're always going to vote the right way, and they're not going to take any money from lobbyists. And these people are typically called losers of elections. Because unless they're self-funded, that's really hard to do. If you ignore the incentives in the political process, and you ignore them completely, oftentimes you're going to lose.
What we have here is a war going between MAGA and the oligarchy. In Michigan, it is Kristina and Trump fighting for all of us. Here is Kristina.
When candidates Kristina Chair and Matt DePerno ran for statewide office last November, the major establishment Republican donors in the Republican Party reportedly they did not open their checkbooks to help them out. Now there is chatter that Betsy DeVos and her husband and others are discussing forming a shadow Republican Party while ignoring the new party chair whose policies they do not like.
This is appalling. Is this what politics is about? Keeping 4 or 5 people happy at all times, hoping to get their money at the expense of the people of this state? I'm a populist. It's about putting people first.
The problem with putting people first is it doesn't get you the oligarchs' money. There is no longer a question of are the elections rigged. It's a matter of, have we ever had real elections? Here is Donald Trump.
We will secure our elections. Our goal will be one-day voting, paper ballots, voter ID, as I said.
The oligarchy can't let real elections take place. Here is David Rogers Webb explaining why.
Then this ideology for central planning. I recently read Friedrich Hayek's Road to Serfdom, which I happen to have my grandfather's copy of that from 1944. So Hayek was writing this before the war even ended. And his main concern was that he saw focus on central planning and really totalitarianism. So they fund all sides in every war because that's how they build their power. During war, the level of debt goes up many fold, which just increases their the extraction from society and the payments to the private central banks. The Fabians founded the London School of Economics. The Fabians, their tenets were that popular democracy could not be allowed. The public could not be allowed to determine things in the world. It had to be done by an aristocratic elite. And so people have dismissed this in the past as some fringe crazies. No, this is what is directly pointed at us now. You can see it happening.
We can all see it happening. The oligarchs finance both the Republicans and the Democrats. The rhetoric is a little different. The bird of prey has two wings. But the final destination is the same. Here is Donald Trump.
I will never allow a central bank digital currency where they take away your money.
If you want total tyranny, let the federal government create a central bank digital currency. The Constitution of the United States limits the federal government to certain enumerated powers. Section 8 says that Congress shall have the power to coin money. Two words stand out. Congress has the power to coin money, not the Federal Reserve. And the word money. Fiat currency is not money. Money is a medium of exchange and a store of value. Fiat currency has no stored value. Section 8 goes on to say, set the value thereof. You can't set the value of fiat currency because it has no intrinsic value. The value of money, when Nixon ended the gold standard, was set at $35 equaled 1 ounce of gold. Section 10 says, no state shall make any thing but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. Only money tied to gold or silver is legal tender in the United States. There is no authorization for the federal government under the United States Constitution to create fiat currency, and there is sure no authorization to create central bank fiat digital currency. Fiat currency is a form of taxation, also banned by the Constitution. As they print more currency, the purchasing power of wages declines, as asset prices rise. The purchasing power of the dollar has declined by 98%. The Dow Jones went from $830 to over $37,000 today. Over 90% of stocks are owned by just 10% of the population. This is a simple wealth transfer from the working class to the rich. Digital currency will give the federal government unbelievable control over the citizens. Let's hear more of what Donald Trump had to say at a recent rally.
And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate.
Big Pharma have billions of dollars of profit at risk with this. The oligarchs are going to do everything they can to oppose this.
I'm here today not just because I'm the Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, because I have believed in President Trump since 2015. Now our borders are open. We need to bring him back. Do we need to bring him back? Bring him back. If we want our borders closed, we need to do what? Bring him back.
Republicans now have a choice. Kristina is a break from the oligarchy. The oligarchy is destroying the middle class and our freedom. Kristina is going to fail if she cannot get the grassroots to donate. Most of us are spending $15 a month for Netflix or some other TV channel. Would you donate $15 a month or more to save your freedom or the freedom of your children? Today's question is this: will you pledge to donate at least $15 a month to the Michigan GOP? If so, go to migop.com and hit donate. Have a great day. And as always, God bless America.